Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are all doing well today. And I hope that you had a chance, even though it was kind of a misty, moisty day yesterday, to go outside and enjoy the beauty of nature on Earth Day. I cannot believe it's been 50 years since they started celebrating Earth Day. Um, I couldn't possibly be that old. So, and none of you either. So, good morning and welcome to another edition of Morning Reflections. This morning, we start with our candle lighting, which I did if you just joined. So, if you have a candle or a way to start your morning, please go ahead and do that now as we get into the morning and get into our day. I also hope that some of you are enjoying the bowl ritual. I'm going to put it over here today so you can see it a little bit better, which is the bowl ritual of taking just a little bit of water and putting it in a bowl for all of the expectations of your day, of all the things that will fill your time, all the good things and the bad things and the ugly things, that they'll all be with you during the day. But then don't forget, at the end of the evening, take your bowl, either take it outside or take it to one of your house plants and empty everything that was in your bowl during the day. You have to let go of all the bad things, all the anxiety and all the stress of the day, and give it over to nature. Give it over to water a plant um, or something outside, which would be a plant. So, yeah, the little bowl ritual, which we thank Melva Anderson for that wonderful little way to start and end our day. Today, I want to continue, as I will through the rest of the week, in the Beatitudes from Matthew's Gospel, picking up just a couple of them each day. And today, I want to start at in chapter 5, which is where the Beatitudes are, but I want to pick up on verse 7. I'm going to give you just the intro and then the 3 Beatitudes for this morning. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." So, all you children of God who are out there this morning facing your day with all the good and the bad and the ugly that will come today, I hope that you can think of it in terms of all the things that are going on are all in God's hands, and we are God's beloved children. And so, therefore, whatever comes today, we know that we don't experience it alone. I think we often think about, the idea of Jesus being with us in hard times, but Jesus is with us in the good times as well. So just remind yourself that whatever happens this day, whatever comes your way, that Jesus is part of that, and the relationship that we have with God never changes. That is always the foundation of how we deal with the world in good times and in bad times. So I ran across, again, I've been reading along this is a wonderful thing that's happening. Let me finish either of those sentences. a wonderful thing that has been happening for me is I am mining my bookshelf. And you can see I have one behind me here at home, but I also have one, a large one at church. And I've been collecting devotional books and books about blessing and that sort of thing for many, many years. But what has happened now is that I'm beginning to go back to some of my old favorites that I haven't looked at for a long time and reminding. It's just like looking at scripture. You go back and read something that you've read many times before, but you haven't maybe read for a time, and when you come back to it, it's somehow new. So that's a wonderful thing. Um, this is again from A Tree Full of Angels by Macrina Wiederkehr. And I was just reading along. I remember last time when we met, we talked about her finding God in the mailbox, and how every time you receive a letter from someone, that it's a little piece of a work of art. It's a premiere of a brand new artistic work that you get to keep with you and read it over and over again. So in that same chapter, I was reading along, and she has a relationship with a friend that had been broken. And so they've been writing back and forth, and the relationship is starting to grow back and be healed. And there was just one line I had to read like 3 times because I thought, what? Did I read that wrong? Listen carefully to this line. I am almost brought to tears when I think of what God has happened between us. Let me read that to you again. I'm almost brought to tears when I think of what God has happened between us. I just was struck by that line and the use of the language there, but that idea of how God has happened in relationships that you have with people that you know and love. And so today, last time I talked about writing a letter to someone maybe in the community that you haven't seen or that you don't know, but to send them just a letter of, how you doing? Here's how I'm doing. Miss you, kind of letter. But today I want to go much, much closer, and that would be for you to start to think about those relationships that God has gifted you with over the years, especially ones that maybe have kind of fallen by the wayside, that you haven't had the time to nurture maybe the way you would like, and to talk about what God has happened between you. So the idea of that just has captured me, and I love that thought about each one of us has an experience of how God has happened between us and other people. I mean, in other words, where has God been? How has God been apparent between you? And obviously, for Macrina and her friend, God has happened between them in the sense of teaching them forgiveness and mercy, and just how to have a relationship, which is sometimes a difficult thing to do. So in that light, I also recall there is um, a song that I had heard years ago, and I've preached on this text before in midweek devotions or that sort of thing. But a line that has captured me for many, many years is, we find ourselves in the midst of God. And I always think that many of us think about God being out there, that we have to come closer to God, that God's in a fixed place, and then we get closer to God. Or even if we don't think about God being in a fixed place, but we think about us coming to God. And that is so really probably not the way it happens most of all, because God always comes to us. This sermon this weekend is on the text, excuse me, on a text from Luke about Easter evening, where Jesus comes to the 2 disciples who are leaving Jerusalem to go home after the crucifixion. And they're, on the road to Emmaus. And all of a sudden, here comes Jesus. So that idea of God always coming to us. And the idea of us being in the midst of God, so that it's sort of like we're in a large molecule, and we're in the center of the molecule, and God is all around us, always. when we talk about that, God being all around us, especially after Earth Day, God's all around us in nature, God's all around us in people and love. But to just be thinking about the fact that we are in the midst of God, so that we can't go anywhere, we can't move anywhere, we can't think anything or do anything without being in the midst of God. And and so then take that out then to the relationships that you have with other people who are also in the midst of God, whether they want to be or not. God loves you no matter what. Um, those relationships that need a little nurture. And it doesn't have to be that it's broken in any way, but maybe just you haven't had time to contact in a while. So today's letter, here's your homework for today. Today's letter is for you to write to someone that you just haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe you haven't made contact during this time of being home. And so you could pick up the phone or you could write an email. But I really, really think it would be wonderful if you would sit down and write that person a letter and tell them. Dorothy says, God as a verb. That's absolutely true. Tell them how God has happened between you two. And and I just think that would be such an amazing gift to receive some morning in the mailbox, completely unsolicited. So that's your first homework. The second one would be a whole lot easier, I'm sure, and that would be to. There was a story in the paper this morning about how UPS and FedEx workers and those who bring things to our home are just crushed, And I know every morning, or the mornings that I go out in the morning to either to go over to church or whatever, usually early in the morning, the only vehicles that are on the road are FedEx, UPS, Amazon deliverers. And you can imagine, I mean, I know just we're not big buyers online, but so many days there's something on our front porch that someone has delivered. So today is a day for you to appreciate and maybe do some random act of kindness for anyone who continues to deliver to your home, whether that be your newspaper man or your waste management people, the people who take away your trash. Maybe to leave a little note on your trash can for them, a thank you. Maybe leave a little something in the mailbox for your mail carrier, or send a note to your newspaper deliverer. I'm also thinking about how cool would it be if you taped a note on your door for one for UPS, one for FedEx, one for whoever normally delivers to you. Just a thank you note. Leave them a cookie or something, some little random act of kindness, so that they know that they are not invisible, that you care, that you appreciate what they're doing, and that they are seen, that they are seen in the eyes of God and in your eyes. So today, that would be our little task for today. Should you choose to do it, these are not mandatory tasks, just suggestions. But the idea then is, here's the last line from that section in the book. It says, "And yes, it is God who has happened between us. It is the very flesh of God. It is Jesus. It seems that there is no end to the number of times that the Word can become flesh in our lives." And she closes it, "I cherish your friendship, Macrina." So there's something wonderful to think about today, to go through your day thinking about all the ways that you are in the midst of God, and that all those people that you love are also in the midst of God. So reach out. They're right there next to you in the midst of God. Reach out to them, appreciate them, affirm what they are doing in their lives, and affirm that relationship that comes between, that is happening, that where the God that is happening between you. Think about that today. And I have a wonderful little thing that you will see me doing now. And there's a story that goes behind this, which I'll tell at a different time. But for those of you, when we share the peace in worship, and now when we do it at church and we're filming or we're videoing, And the staff, any of the staff that are there, we try to go past the camera and do a little, some kind of sign of peace so that you can see us and we can share the peace with you at home. Here's a new one. If you watched the series Picard, which is a Star Trek spinoff, normally, like Pastor Anthony tells us to bow, but there's a story in there which, as I say, I'll share another time. But the idea is that you bow to the other person, and then you open your hands to them to say, I have no weapon. I see who you are. I accept who you are. I trust you. I thought, what a wonderful thing to do for the sharing of the peace. So here's my peace for you today. The peace of the Lord be with you always, and also with you. The sign of peace and love in the midst of God. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.